Skyrim just turned 11 years old and has been re-released on more consoles than I can count. As of the making of this video, you can play it right now as part of your Game Pass or PlayStation Plus Extra subscription. We'll be taking a look at the special edition on PlayStation 5 because I don't want to disable all of my very tasteful mods on Xbox. If you like what you see here, subscribe, it really helps out the channel, and leave a comment of your favourite Skyrim memory. We all have that one crazy tale. Now, before Todd scraps the Elder Scrolls 6 to release another version of this, we're here to let you know if Skyrim is worth your time.
In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.
Wide as an ocean, deep as a puddle. The beauty of the gameplay here is in the variety, rather than the actual depth of the systems. Skyrim is the true everyman RPG. You can be the dragon slayer you were born to be, a soldier in a war, a thief, a mage, a blood-sucking vampire, an assassin, a humble adventurer, or the ultimate stealth archer. There is nothing in this game that you have to do, and every playstyle has a few quest lines to cater to specific builds. The special edition also comes with all of the base game DLCs, which allow you to build the house of your dreams, end the world as a vampire, or save it as a vampire hunter, and travel to a mysterious island north. On top of that, mods are here. These give the gameplay limitless possibilities. If you want to get the best mod experience, PC is absolutely the way to go, followed by Xbox. PlayStation does not allow new assets for mods, and unfortunately, that severely neuters the mod selection. We won't be talking much about the mods in this video, as we're more focused on the base game experience. Every issue we outline in this video can be solved with mods. We wanted to show the game in the light Bethesda intended, but I will absolutely recommend experimenting with mods as they really do make the game even better. Skyrim's biggest gameplay strength is easily the natural way that gameplay mechanics introduce themselves. Knowing that you need to smack a skeleton with a sword to make it stop moving is pretty simple, but he might have some weird ingredients on him that you loot, only later to be told by an alchemist that you can use them to make potions. You might stay at an inn, only to be told by the barmaid of a magical college up north, where you can swap your sword and shield for sparks and heals. Bethesda did a great job in intertwining the gameplay with the world. The game is just itching for you to get distracted by some random adventure on your way to something else, and that is honestly the best way to play. Skyrim flourishes when you go with the flow. The main questline does a fantastic job of opening up the world and giving you an insight into almost every guild questline, but the true adventure is the friends you make along the way. Expanding from this, world design always encourages exploration. All of Skyrim is open to you from the get-go. If you see something cool in the distance, you can go there, find out that it's actually a massive dungeon full of monsters, and adventure to your heart's content. Skills are extremely streamlined, which makes adapting playstyles very easy. If being a mage isn't working out too well for you, you can pretty easily pick up a sword and start swinging without having to restart the entire game. You gain experience simply by doing a thing. Armour levels up when you get hit whilst wearing it, weapons get leveled up simply by bonking enemies with them, and skills like speech get leveled up by bartering with shopkeepers. Even lockpicking gets leveled by just trying to pick locks. Failing gives you some experience. Everything you do in Skyrim is working towards something, be it a new skill or adventure, and it makes trying new things out easy and rewarding, even if the end result is always stealth archer. Finally, I'd like to talk about the greatness of the dynamic events in the world. These are what makes Skyrim truly special over all else. You can come across guard patrols and help free prisoners. Thieves will jump out at you and try to steal your loot, and chatting to random people can flourish into quests and even more discoveries. The real winner of the dynamic events is the dragon fights. After you get a few quests into the main storyline and fight your first dragon, they will start spawning randomly. These fights are always awesome. The dragons will fly around, land on buildings, and breathe fire everywhere. If you're in a settlement, then everyone will drop what they're doing and fight the dragon. These events feel like a main quest, and they're always a delight when they pop up. This is all really well and good, but unfortunately, it does lead to some of my problems with the gameplay. In the pursuit of the freedom to do whatever you want, Skyrim loses a lot of gameplay depth. Traditional weapons never really expand from smacking whatever is in front of you. Similarly, magic never really expands from just holding your hands out and necking magic potions even if there are some fancier spells. Stuff like lockpicking and pickpocketing never expands, your odds just get better. This lack of depth also extends to the questlines. Only a few have actual tangible changes to the world of Skyrim, the majority just don't, and it does have a tangible effect on the feeling of your impact in the world. Combat lacks satisfying feel all around. It never really feels like my sword swings or spells are actually connecting or reacting with the things that they are hitting. Whilst enemy variety overall is pretty solid, you always know what you'll be running into in a particular dungeon based on its design. There are a few surprises, but pretty much every cave is filled with Draugr. You spend a lot of time in Skyrim fighting, and it never really feels satisfying or expands further than hitting the enemy with whatever is in your hands and necking the appropriate potion. Finally, difficulty implementation is very lazy. Turning up the difficulty just makes enemies hit harder whilst you hit weaker. The combat just isn't in depth enough to make higher difficulties feel rewarding. Skyrim is an absolute masterclass in building a compelling world for players to explore, but it really does suffer from lack of depth, and that lack of depth spreads across the game like a plague. Is it fun to fight a dragon that's landed whilst you were talking to someone? Hell yeah it is. It's similarly fun to simply explore, or be an evil mastermind, or whatever roleplay you can think of. But once you've had your fun, there isn't really anywhere further to go apart from somewhere else. We're giving Skyrim a 4 out of 5 for gameplay. It is good, it wouldn't still be so popular 11 years later if it wasn't, but the base game does have issues that spread so wide that we simply cannot ignore them. The good news is that with mods, you can improve your chosen gameplay style to your liking and really push the gameplay further. Skyrim is a very mixed bag in terms of art direction. As with the gameplay, the world design is top notch. There is always something in your view that will entice you to go there, and there are plenty of times when the game looks downright gorgeous. It is simply magic. Unfortunately, there are also times when the game looks terrible. Textures are flat, the draw distance is abysmal to the point where you can see foliage being painted in, and the magic is sapped away as quickly as it comes. Character models and animations are really showing their age. These just don't look good, and the use of automated animation makes everything look wonky. Voice acting is pretty solid for the most part. It's nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done. Just expect to hear the same few voices a lot. Enemy designs are awesome. The dragons are the stars of the show. They feel massive and sound deafening. The way skeletons fall apart when you kill them, or how dwarven robots move, or how magical enemies are conjured, always adds some fun flair to battles. UI design varies wildly in function and form, despite being consistently designed. Gameplay UI is phenomenal. It disappears when not in use, so you can really soak into the atmosphere, but it pops up when needed, so you're always informed. The UI is never overbearing, and in a world of minimaps and hundreds of icons, this is simply wonderful. The map screen is also great. Having a 3D model only helps with the idea of I want to go there and see that. Inventory and quest UI is entirely function over form. It works and is simple to understand. It even looks pretty good. However, once you start carrying a lot of gear, or you end up with a lot of active quests, things can get very clunky and it quickly becomes hard to find the thing that you need. The skills menu UI sucks. It feels very form over function. The star signs for skill trees are a wonderful design, but trying to navigate to the thing you want with a controller is always a pain. Finally, the music in this game is just wonderful. There aren't a lot of distinct tracks. You'll hear the one combat track enough for 3 lifetimes, but it's all still good. The Karma music hits a wonderful nostalgic tone, and the main theme makes you feel like an awesome dragon slayer. Sound design is also very good. Swords and spells sound great when they hit something, even if they don't look like they're hitting that thing. The shouts feel immensely powerful, and leveling up always feels like a little bit of a ceremony. Skyrim is getting a solid 4 out of 5 for its art direction. There is some truly phenomenal stuff here, but at the same time, parts of the game are really showing their age, and there are some frustrating form over function choices present. World building takes over from traditional writing here to make Skyrim's narrative great. Noticing a trend? The story in Skyrim is that you are finally awake, and are the only person that can fully kill dragons. Thankfully, your skill set is in demand because Alduin, the world-eating dragon, has come back and resurrected all of his dragon friends to take over Skyrim. The main quest as a story is engaging and does a great job of tying into gameplay by having you go all over Skyrim and run into a lot of the major guilds and explore large portions of the world. The story does feel important and definitely takes some interesting twists and turns throughout, but it suffers from a lack of a sense of urgency. Everyone in Skyrim will tell you how big of a problem the dragons are, but Alduin will happily wait for you to finish your side quests. I'm not going to come down too hard on this, as the only open world game that fixed this problem was Breath of the Wild, and you could argue that everything you do is preparing you for your fight against Alduin, but it is worth mentioning. All of the guild storylines follow the same formula, and have you working your way to being the leader of the guild. None of these storylines are outright bad, and do have an interesting sense of discovery, but they are not great either. They can't really have any major narrative ramifications in the name of freedom of play. This is sacrificing narrative for the sake of gameplay, but that leads into the best narrative threads of Skyrim, the world and you. Making up your own story is the big draw of Skyrim. In this playthrough, I played as John Skyrim, who is trying to find a working eye and gets in misadventures along the way. He took it very personally when Alduin was 5 minutes late to stop the execution of his friend, and so now he has to die. Along his way, John gained an immense hatred for the Falmer because they are the worst, but even they cannot compare to bad timekeeping. This is a very simple example, but you really can roleplay as almost any type of character you'd like. You can be silly, you can be serious, you can ignore roleplaying altogether, but it is a big part of the narrative fun. The world building is also phenomenal. Travelers will tell you stories that will lead to quests, quest locations have wonderful environmental storytelling, and flavor text found in books and notes really go a long way into expanding the world if you take the time to read them. The narrative gameplay bond here is extremely strong. Skyrim thrives off those stories you'll tell your friends the next day, rather than the actual writing that everyone experiences. And for that reason, it gets a 4 out of 5. Skyrim Special Edition is an immense content offering, but it is a technical mess. For what it's worth, we didn't encounter any bugs that outright broke the game in this playthrough, but I've played enough Skyrim over the last 11 years to tell you that this game is a total mess sometimes. What we did experience this playthrough were a lot of niggles. We'll get onto those in a little bit. Content-wise, this is the complete package. You're getting the entire base game of Skyrim with a fresh coat of paint, and all 3 major DLCs. Hearthfire, Dawnguard and Dragonborn. These are all sizable content offerings on their own. On top of that is the Creation Club with some paid and free content. It's fun to dabble in, but not really amazing. You do get unlimited save slots, and the game keeps your last 3 autosaves by default. The game also allows you to create multiple characters and groups saves accordingly. This is great if you want to make really specific builds or have a few playthroughs going at once. We were off to a great start with bugs when an NPC got clipped into my character creation screen. Shouts sometimes just wouldn't work. This happened a lot in combat and got me killed plenty of times. Companions constantly blocked my path, and you have to do the Skyrim shuffle to get them to move. In this quest, the quest giver decided to start spinning into Oblivion. It was at this point that I learnt that character voices are attached to the model, and so I missed out on a load of quest context. In the same quest, Alduin decided he needed a 5-minute breather before flying off and allowing the quest to continue. These were just some of my favourites. Like I say, none of these issues are game-breaking, but this was the second full-price release of the game 5 years after it came out. A fresh coat of graphical paint just wasn't enough. A passover of the bugs, features of Skyrim, should have been top priority. Even mods can't patch all of the problems, although they do go a long way. Settings are a bit of a mixed bag. You can invert the Y-axis, but not the X. Look sensitivity has a slider. Vibration and survival mode can be toggled. There are 6 difficulty settings, all these do are scale enemy health and attacks. The game starts you out on Adept, and I'd recommend leaving it at that. You can choose to show floating markers, you can choose to autosave on rest, wait, travel and in-time increments on the character menu. Display settings has sliders for brightness and HUD opacity. You can enable the center crosshair. Dialogue and general subtitles can be enabled separately. Dialogue subtitles are when you're directly talking to someone. General are when people are talking around you, such as guards making remarks. There are no further subtitle options, and this is a problem as the subtitles can be pretty hard to read at times. There is also a slider for depth of field. Audio has sliders for master, effects, footsteps, voice and music volume. Finally, controls can be rebound to your liking. There are no accessibility settings outside of the few listed. Again, like the bugs, this is really something that should have been added with the re-release. If you are struggling with things like colour blindness or reading subtitles, you can't do anything to fix it. Overall, Skyrim gets a 2 out of 5 for specs. The content offering here is astronomical and pulling a lot of weight on the score here. The game works, but is largely unpolished, and that is much less forgivable, seeing that this was another full-priced game on release. I'd say that the unofficial patch is mandatory for a smoother experience, but it will disable achievements and trophies if you like that sort of thing. Skyrim is a game that does a lot to respect your time. Hard drive footprint varies between platforms. On PS5 I clocked in at just over 16GB, on Xbox Series S I clocked in at just over 42GB. This is a large download on Xbox, so just be aware if you have slow internet or a data cap. The main quest, with a little bit of exploring, took me around 10 hours to beat. My old Xbox 360 save, where I did all of the base game quest lines, clocked in at just over 80 hours. Dawnguard and Dragonborn will take you around 10 to 15 hours each. Overall, to do absolutely everything in the game, you're looking in the ballpark of 100 to 150 hours. Usually, this would be enough to knock a point off. However, you're under no obligation to do everything. Skyrim is very comfortable with you stopping once you've had your fill. If you want to slay Alduin and call it a day, then you can do that after just 10 hours. Similarly, if you want to join the Dawnguard, stop the vampires and then build a house to retire in for 20 hours, then you can do just that. This is a massive game, but it is very easy to just jump into the content you want to see and ignore the rest. You can save at literally any point, but your checkpoints are tied to saves. You do autosave by default when you rest, travel or enter a new area. Leave this setting on. If you forget to save for 2 hours and die, you'll go all the way back. Fast travel around the world is an option, but it doesn't take an eternity to actually just walk where you need to go, and walking allows dynamic gameplay moments to occur. Overall, Skyrim is incredibly respectful of your time. Just make sure to save frequently. Hard drive footprint can get a bit big on certain platforms, but that alone is not enough to knock a point off when the game is getting it so right everywhere else. The game can be very long if you want to do everything, but it is very easy to fit Skyrim in around whatever free time you have, be it 10 minutes or 10 hours. And that's why it gets the full 5 out of 5 on our commitment scale. 11 years on, Skyrim is still absolutely worth your time. It is showing its age a bit, but there is no freedom like it. Go anywhere, do anything, be good, be evil, be a bit of both. See that dragon? Kill it. See that mountain? Climb it. Skyrim is still one of the widest worlds in gaming. There really is something new around every corner, but if you're looking for serious depth, you best look elsewhere. Despite that, however, Skyrim still manages to be far more than the sum of its parts.